All right, YouTube nerds, we're back at it. We took a little bit of a break for a bit there, and the reason for that was just simply I was just running myself way too thin. Editing videos itself isn't hard, as a lot of you guys know, but the issue was that on top of everything else I was doing, I had a really shitty computer, and it's just making editing like so much more of a process and nightmare than it needed to be. Like a task that should have taken 10-15 minutes would literally take me like 40 minutes to an hour. So I was like, having none of that, waited till we got a good computer, which we now have, and this won't be such a nightmare anymore. So with that, bringing back more content. You guys probably just saw we put out our like end of season raw driving video from last year's wrap up. The last thing you guys would have saw was my car getting painted and all that. This year we got a different chassis, and I'll explain what we're doing with that right now. So this is the new chassis. It's I picked this up off a buddy. It's already acid dipped and stitch welded, so that was a big bonus just in terms of saving me time. There's a lot of time that goes into just getting a car to that point in general. So starting with a car at this point was a big bonus for me. I've done a bit of work already that I didn't document too much, but I'll throw some clips in and me throwing some metal around. This is all just panels that I've removed from the car. So what I've done so far, you guys can see back there, is I've basically been spending a lot of time just dealing with all the spot welds. So removing any tabs, brackets, areas of the car that we don't need to be FD legal. So I won't go over a little stuff like the brackets, but you guys can see parcel panel, the rear parcel tray, that is removed. As well as the supports that go on the strut towers are removed. Up front here, I like to take out this section of the inner fender well on these cars. That's just a personal preference thing, but I tie a piece of DOM tubing into the frame down here. Any of the little areas in here that from factory, like, you know, hold the ECU compartment and whatnot, I get rid of all those. There's some of the stitch welding you guys can see on the strut tower. So yeah, getting as much weight out of this car as possible while keeping it legal. Every tab, bracket we can possibly get, it's all weight, all counts in the end. We're going to be doing the clamshell style 2-piece rear quarter, so at some point soon we'll be zipping this whole section off. The floor is already out in the back. We'll do a tube rear end, and the plan for this car is to put the fuel cell in the back seat, which means when we do the cage, we're gonna have to build a firewall. I'll probably do some sort of, a lot of dudes run like a dry brake through their Lexan window. It's pretty baller. We'll see. That's kind of the only shitty thing about having the fuel cell back here, is just how to make it easy as possible to fuel it. But I will come up with a solution, because the whole name of the game with this car is lightweight, easy on the drivetrain. We're not making a ton of jam, but I'm trying to make up for that with how effective and efficient this car is gonna be. Using the same engine, trans, diff, drivetrain as last year. So essentially, once the fab work is done on this car and it's painted, it's just a matter of literally just tossing all that back in. I made all this stuff so that it mounts to factory mounting points on the E46, which is great. So once the fab work's done, it just bolts right up. Nothing else needs to be done. So things will start moving pretty quickly, or at least will feel like they're moving quickly once the fab work is done. Other changes other than that, I mean, we're gonna put a fuel cell in, like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, with proper fuel system, Holley rail, and probably, we dynoed at 400 last year, 400 horsepower, 385 foot-pounds of torque. I'm not a big dyno numbers guy, but that is just what we made. But with this car being hopefully a couple 100 pounds lighter this year, as well as having a much better suspension setup, which is key for me because I've never had a good suspension setup, and I've been aware of that, but I just haven't had the means or time to like fix it. This year we're doing that. I'm hoping to throw 75 shot or 100 shot of NOS at this iron block, and honestly it should take it, but we have a backup motor too that we're probably gonna bring with us for worst case Ontario, but maybe a 75 shot, which will put us just under 500 wheel. And I don't know. I think that, you know, we were pretty effective with this car with what it had last year. I think that this thing with a proper suspension setup, lighter and a bit more jam, I think it'll be a really fun car to do Pro-Am with. So that's kind of the plan as of right now. Obviously the plan changes as you kind of go along the process, but for me, this is the most cost-effective way to build us what should be a competitive car at the Pro-Am level, as long as I can pull through. So yeah, I've had a few people ask me why I got rid of the old chassis. There's really nothing wrong with it, but the cage was debatably FD legal, and I didn't want to risk going down to the States, spending all that time, money, resources getting to an event, and then risk being like told that I can't compete because my cage isn't legal. So this is kind of my swan song, E46. We're gonna build it proper, the way I want it in terms of the fab work, and hopefully I never have to build another one again. If we ever put a different motor or trans or rear end in it, at least the fabric on the chassis will be good, and we can make whatever adjustments we need to in order to fit those items. But this is it. I'm tired of building cars. Been drifting for 3 years, and for 3 years I've built 3 different cars. So the learning curve has been steep. Anyways, excited to bring more content to you guys with this thing. It's gonna be more regular this year. Do more rowdy shit on our burn yard here, little slip club burn yard.
Are we ready? I guess not.
Smile.